Hey guys, this is Butch. I'm here at the Henry Clay Estate, which is one of the better known homes here in Lexington, Kentucky. A lot of history. Henry Clay was the great compromiser, and just some beautiful grounds here. And we're going to start a new story this week, and we'll just do a couple of verses from that story today, and then over the next several days I'll try to add a story every other day or so. But in this story, Jesus is he's been trying to prepare his disciples for the fact that he's going to be leaving, and they've not handled it well. Let's just put it mildly. And he has told them numerous times that he is going to go to Jerusalem and be crucified, but also that he's going to rise again on the third day. And it's almost humorous how often they miss the point of what Jesus had to say. But, well, here's our story from God's Word. Jesus was speaking to the disciples, and he said, "Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house there are many rooms. If it weren't so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go to prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, so that where I am, there you may be also." You know, what do you think it might have been like to be the disciples, and you invested all this emotional energy? I mean, you have seen Jesus do all these things, and you know he's not just some guy, right? And now he's telling you that things are about to change. What might that have felt like emotionally for the disciples? Yeah, I mean, I can see a lot of things: confusion, doubt, just absolute no, right? No, that like kind of what Peter says at another point. That, "No, Lord, that's just not gonna happen." But I mean, here Jesus said, "Let not your heart be troubled." So does that tell us anything about Jesus' concern for those that followed him? I mean, I wonder, does it also tell us anything about a troubled heart as far as Jesus was concerned? Does it seem like he thought the disciples had a choice in whether or not they let their hearts be troubled? Let not your hearts be troubled. But then, not only does he say this is something you can stop, but he also gives them a reason. Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. So somehow, do you see that Jesus is connecting faith in him as God with the ability, or the availability, we might say, of having peace even in the midst of trials and a storm? And then a further reason. In my Father's house there are many rooms. Now, some translations would say, in my Father's house there are many mansions, but if you look at the context of this, that doesn't really make a lot of sense, right? So in my Father's house there are many rooms. Does that tell us anything about Jesus' expectation of heaven? I mean, do you see there that those that believe in him are all going to have their own big mansion up on a hilltop someplace? Or possibly, is it something even better? That rather than living out in the place all by ourselves, do you see the possibility of us living in the Father's house? Man, how incredible will that be? You know, and not only does he say that, that my Father's house is your house, but additionally, he says, I'm going to prepare a place for you, so that where I am, there you will be. What might that tell us about heaven? I mean, we love aspects of the Father, right? I mean, that's never want to minimize God the Father at all. But wow, I mean, just where I am, there you will be also. And do you see that Jesus expects that to bring comfort to the disciples? I wonder, do you see a contrast here between the world's expectation of religion and Christ's expectation of relationship? I mean, what might we learn about Christ's thoughts on Christianity or the Christian faith or the way or whatever terminology we throw out there? What might we learn from what Christ says here that you're going to be with me? I mean, today I wonder, is true Christianity about following a set of rules and regulations, or is it about that relationship with Christ? What about you? You know, now obviously we have a lot of things in the New Testament written about behaviors we should and should not engage in, but you know, in addition to that, there's a lot of things that the one that loves me. And so what is your relational, what is your relationship, let's say, with the Lord? Is he a friend that's closer than a brother? Is he a rule setter that you're trying to please? You know, I've got to admit, for many years when I was growing up, before I became a follower of Christ, the system I was raised up in, and it wasn't their fault, this was on me. I just imagined that God was up in heaven sitting on a cloud just waiting for me to mess up. And I kind of pictured him with a golf bag full of lightning bolts, that as soon as I messed up, pow, zap, he was going to get me. But you know, having come to know Christ in a personal way, man, there's so much more. I wonder, how can this promise of living in the Father's house, how might that help you in the future? If hard times come, or things don't go the way you think they ought to go, or maybe even God doesn't work the way you think he ought to work, how might that promise that we have an eternity with the Father, living with him, how might that help you through those times? Just a thought. Well, next time we'll get to my favorite disciple, Thomas, who is such a man of faith, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But appreciate you listening, and if you think of something in this story that we haven't talked about or haven't shared, or maybe even a way you can apply some of the things we've talked about, I'd love for you to drop it down in the comments section. And also, if you get a chance to subscribe, or maybe get some friends to subscribe, it would just help a brother out. We're trying to build this channel a little bit, and I'd appreciate any help I can get. So until the next time, keep telling those Bible stories.